This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. First and Last by Hilaire Belloc. Chapter 22. The Roman Roads in Picardy. If a man were asked where he would find upon the map the sharpest impress of Rome and of the memories of Rome, and where he would most easily discover in a few days on foot the foundations upon which our civilization still rests, he might, in proportion to his knowledge of history and of Europe, be puzzled to reply. He might say that a week along the wall from Tyne to Solway would be the answer, or a week in the great Roman cities of Provence and their triumphal arches and their vast arenas and their Roman stone cropping out everywhere, in old quays, in ruined bridges, in the very pavement of the streets they use today, and in the columns of their living churches. Now I was surprised to find myself, after many years of dabbling in such things, furnishing myself the answer in quite a different place. It was in Picardy, during the late manoeuvres of the French army, that in the intervals of watch those great buzzing flies, the aeroplanes, and the intervals of long tramps, after the regiments of, or watching the massed guns, the necessity for perpetually consulting the map brought home to me for the first time this truth, that Picardy is the province, or, to be more accurate, Picardy with its marches in the Ile-de-France, the edge of Normandy, and the edge of Flanders, which retains today the most vivid impress of Rome. For though the great buildings are lacking, and the Roman work, which must here have been mainly of brick, has crumbled, and though I can remember nothing upstanding and patently of the empire between the gate of Rheims and the frontier of Artois, yet one feature, the Roman road, is here so evident, so multiple, and so enduring, that it makes up for all the rest. One discovers the old roads upon the map, one after another, with a sort of surprise. The scheme develops before one as one looks, and always when one thinks one has completed the web, another and yet another, the straightened arrow of a line, reveals itself across the page. The map is a sort of palimpsest, a mass of fine modern roads, a whole red blur of lanes and local ways, the big rare black lines of the railway. These are the recent writing, as it were, but underneath the whole, more and more apparent, and in greater and greater numbers as one learns to discover them, are the strict, taut lines which Rome stretched over all those plains. There is something most fascinating in noting them and discovering them one after the other. For they need discovering. No one of them is still in complete use. The greater part must be pieced together from lengths of lanes which turn into broad roads, and then suddenly sink again into footpaths, rights-of-way, or green forest rides. Often, as with our rare Roman roads in England, all trace of the thing disappears under the plough, or in the soft crossings of the river valleys. One marks them by the straightness of their alignment, by the place names which lie upon them, the repeated name Estrie, for instance, which is like the place name street upon the Roman roads of England, by the recovery of them after a gap, by the discoveries which local archaeology has made. Different men have different pastimes, and I dare say that most of those who read this will wonder that such a search should be a pastime for any man. But I confess it is a pastime for me. To discover these things, to recreate them, to dig out on foot the base upon which 2,000 years of history repose, is the most fascinating kind of travel. And then the number of them. You may take an oblong country with Maubeuge at one corner, Pontoise at another, Yvetot and some frontier town such as Fumis for the other two corners, and in that stretch of country, 150 miles by perhaps 200, you can build up a scheme of Roman ways almost as complete as the scheme of the great roads today. That one which most immediately strikes the eye is the great line which starts upon Rouen from Paris. Twice broken at the crossing of the river valleys, and lost altogether in the last 12 miles before the capital of Normandy, it still stands on the modern map, a great modern road, with every aspect of purpose and of intention in its going. From Amiens again they radiate out, these roads, some like the way to Cambrai, in use every mile, some like the old marching road to the sea, to the Portus Itius, to Boulogne, a mere lane, often wholly lost and never used as a great modern road. This was the way along which the French feudal cavalry trailed to the disaster of Crécy. And just beyond Crécy it goes and loses itself in that exasperating but fascinating manner which is the whole charm of Roman roads, wherever the hunter finds them. You may lay a ruler along this old forgotten track all the way past Domcoeur, Novelle, which is called Novelle en Chose, that is, Novelle on the paved road, on past Estrie, where from the height you overlook the battlefield of Crécy. And that ruler, so lying on your map, points right at Boulogne Harbour, 30-odd miles away. And in all those 30-odd remaining miles I could not find another yard of it. But what an interest, what a hobby to develop! There is nothing like it in all the kinds of hunting that have ever been invented for filling up the whole of the mind. True, you will get no sauce of danger, but on the other hand, you will hunt for weeks and weeks, and you will come back year after year and go on with your hunting, and sometimes you actually find, which is more than can be said for hunting some animals in the Weald. How it was lost, this great main road of Europe, this marching road of the legions, linking up Gaul and Britain, the way that Hadrian went, and the way down which the usurper Constantine III must have come during the short adventure of his, which lends such a romance to the end of the empire. One cannot conceive why it should have disappeared. It is a sunken way down the hillside across the light railway which serves Crécy. It gets vaguer and vaguer, for all the world like those ridges upon the chalk that mark the Roman roads in England, and then it is gone. It leaves you pointing, I say, at that distant harbour 30-odd miles off, but over all those miles it has vanished. The ghost of the legends cannot march along it any more. In one place you'll find a few yards of it, about 3 miles south and east of Montreux. It may be that the little lane leading into Estrie shows where it crossed the valley of the Coche, but it is all guesswork, and therefore very proper to the huntsman. Then there is that unbroken line by which St. Martin came, I think, when he rode into Amiens, and at the gate of the town cut his cloak in two to cover the beggar. It drives across the country for Roye and on to Noyon, the old centre of the kings. It is a great modern road all the way, and it stretches before you mile after mile after mile until suddenly, without explanation and for no reason, it ends sharply, like the life of a man. It ends on the slopes of the hill called Choisy, at the edge of the wood which is there, and seek as you will never find it again. From that road also, near Amiens, branches out another whose object was St. Quentin, first as a great high road lost in the valley of the Somme, a lesser road again, still in one strict alignment. It reaches on to within a mile of Vermand, and there it stops dead. I do not think that between Vermand and St. Quentin you will find it. Go out northwestward from Vermand and walk perhaps 5 miles or 7. There is no trace of a road, only the rare country lanes winding in and out, and the open plough of the rolling land. But continue by your compass so, and you will come suddenly again, and with no apparent reason for its abrupt origin, upon the dead straight line that ran from the capital of Nervy 3 days' march and more, and pointing all the time straight at Vermand. And so it is throughout the province and its neighbourhood. Here and there, as at Bavai, a great capital has decayed. Here and there, but more rarely, a town wholly new has sprung up since the Romans. But the plan of the country is the same as that which they laid down, and the roads, as you discover them, mark it out and establish it. The armies that you see marching today in their manoeuvres follow for half a morning the line which was taken by the legions. The end of chapter 22.